Hi, this is Marguerite, and I wanted to share with you a journal that I just recently finished making. This is one that I made the covers for, as well as the internals, and I have been watching quite a few videos to see what other people have been creating with their journals. There's a lot out there, particularly with people creating junk journals. The person who I think has got the best or some of the best videos for making journals is Michelle Mooney with the Paper Addiction. She's very, very creative and has some really fabulous binding for her spines and just beautiful stuff. So I really enjoy watching and seeing what she's putting together. Anyway, this one I used, when I made the covers, I used cardstock. Kind of used a heavier cardstock. I used 4 pieces, and I just scored down the middle with like 1.5 inches for a spine. That gave me the width, and then you can just choose how long you want the book, your journal, to be. Mine is something like a 4x6 or somewhere in that range. I used 4 pieces of cardstock, and in addition to that I took junk mail and just kind of stuck it in between to make it a little bit thicker. And in addition to that, I used a little bit of Tyvek in the spine. Tyvek is that material, it's a plastic, very durable, lightweight, that keeps things from tearing. So I cut out a piece and I glued it inside in between my pages, just right in here, since I knew that I was going to be sewing the signatures into the journal. I decided to do that. So yeah, 4 pieces of that. Then I painted this. I used a matte medium to glue all my pages together. Then I painted it just with a regular acrylic paint to start me off with a brown. This is kind of I don't even know what color this is. It's kind of it says Bambi brown, so it's kind of a lighter brown, not too dark. After that, I used a red because I wanted it to have a kind of a leathery, a reddish brown look to it. And I used this ink spray to spray over the top of my acrylic paint. So I used those 2 colors. After I got the consistency that I wanted, I went and did the corners with a little bit of stain, but this did not work at all. It was too light. So then I used this acrylic paint. This is a espresso color, I think it says, something like that. This piece on the top is one of these grunge boards by Tim Holtz, and I painted that brown, and after I glued it on, because it's kind of 3-dimensional. After I glued that on, I used a little bit of copper ink pad to get the color that I wanted. I ended up using, I have 3 signatures in here, and I sewed them in using a cross stitch pattern. It was really fussy and a lot of work. Of course, I like the way it turned out. I'm very happy with the way it turned out, but it was just really, it was a pain, and I don't know if I would do that again. I might try a different kind of stitch the next time. But I used three signatures. It looks really thick, but I think it's also because I tea-dyed the paper and baked it, and when you bake the paper, it gets really crinkly. It doesn't really lie flat like normal paper does anymore. So it just kind of gave it a lot of volume, even before I started putting anything in there. So it's fine. 3 signatures. There are 4 pages in each signature, with addition of 2 other paper sources. So I use 4 pages plus an envelope or plus 6x6 cardstock. So for total, it was 6 pieces of paper in 1 signature, and that was plenty. I don't think I would go more than that, because it's already pretty thick. All right, so that's the covers. Yeah, all the paints. Oh, and then after I had all the paints and everything like that, I sprayed it with an acrylic coating. This ink is really, it does not, it doesn't seem permanent. If you touch it for a long time, I had red ink on my fingers. So I really wanted to avoid, having it smear. So you have to coat it with something. So I had a spray acrylic clear coat that I just sprayed over the top, and I think I did a couple of coats of that just to keep it, so it doesn't spread anymore. On the inside, I have, this is just an old book. So I go to a lot of used book sales, and I always, keep an eye out for some interesting older books. And this whole journal really is a collection of all kinds of treasures that I have found over the years. I called it a book of little treasures, things that I found at flea markets or used book sales. I've put in here old photos, maps of places that I've been or that I want to go, old letters, postcards, pieces of used books, or pieces of art that have a meaning to me. I wanted to put things not that just look pretty, but that actually have a meaning to me, and things that I've collected over the years. So that's what this is. So it's definitely not a junk journal. It's just a journal where I have a lot of special things. So this was a piece of a book. I used matte medium to glue it on the inside, and then again I sprayed it with acrylic with that coat just to kind of keep it. I put a top coat on there. On this side, it's just a couple of, I think that's one of those envelopes, glassine bags. I cut up and printed some letters on there and did some stenciling. I found a really nice stencil from Martha Stewart. I didn't keep the cover, the packaging, but I use it a lot. It's really nice. I guess it's it's metal. It's bendable, so you can use it to wrap around glass if you're going to paint glass or I don't know what. But it's really nice, and I use it a lot for some for these things here and little stuff like that. So that's the cover. Tim Holtz. That is this piece. It's a mask. This, and I realized, because I've had this for a couple of years, I realized that it was the same as this, just on a smaller scale. So that was a nice find to be able to kind of match that in the book with the cover. So this I've made. These are just this is a collage, just of different old pieces of book. Just things I put together. This has got a pocket on the side over here. I just used a piece of book again, and just from a paper pad, something like that. And this wraps from one side to the other. Just wrap that over in the paper too. Postcard. I made some pockets that I sewed into the pages, and I did the sewing, of course, before I put the signatures into the cover. This is an old banknote from Berlin in 1914. This I found in Munich at a flea market there. I did, as I said, I sewed it in. I'm not, I don't know, I like it, but I don't like it. It's kind of fussy to have to sew it into the paper, and I saw another person on a video, I forgot what her name was. She sewed the pocket, not onto the paper, just the pocket itself, and then glued or taped the pocket into the corner of the paper. And I think I might do that the next time. It's just less fuss, and it looks just as good. You can see some of the sewing in the back, and I don't know, it looks a little bit, I don't know. I'm just kind of not too thrilled with it. But anyway, it's totally no big deal. I used a lot of pieces of 6x6 paper pad. This is another, this is a sample. This is what I practice with for doing spine, a binding. I just wanted to see what it would look like, you know, if I did a different kind of pattern. And so I kept these. This is the middle of the signature. I put in an envelope here. This is just got a postcard. But what you do to hide the seam of the signature is you have an envelope that you cut out yourself, that you make, and you just put it, you know, in the middle, and you punch your holes out. And when you sew in your signature, you'll have the thread here, and then you can close your envelope, glue it or tape it closed, and then the seam is not going to show. The threads are not going to show. So that's what this is. And it turns out really nice. It turns out really nice. Okay. Here's the other side of that 6x6. This is just a couple pieces of paper pad put together with a little stamp. I sewed this in on the top, and I covered the other seam in the back. Just didn't really care for it. Here I used a paper napkin. I pulled the layers of paper napkin and cut out the pieces that I want and kind of glued it on to a map, and that turned out okay. Just kind of wanted to experiment to see what that was going to look like. This is just from a paper pad. I wasn't sure if I'm going to make a pocket or not. I could just, kind of put double-sided tape on the top and bottom and have a pocket, but I'm not sure yet if I want to have it loose or have it in that pocket. This is a postcard, and then I also just did a stencil on the back of that with ink. Here's again that Tim Holtz mask. Just cut out some pieces of paper used from an old book, used a stamp, and then this is just a little collage that I made. Here's another kind of a pocket on the side with one of my favorite sayings, a place for everything and everything in its place. Stick a little eyelet in there. I really like eyelets. I have fun putting them in paper. This one, again, let's see. Yes, I did sew this in. I sewed this into the paper. It's a little pocket again with another collage that I made. That's just a cutout that's glued onto a piece of music paper. Here's another 6x6 with more eyelets. This one is from Ephemera's Vintage Garden. This was one of those freebies. So I stuck that along with some more, another book page of Latin lessons. This was a birthday card from Floyd to his wife in 1945. I found this at a book sale, tucked in a book somewhere. It's got really pretty beading. I don't know if you can see that. It's like these little plastic beads that have been melted onto the paper. Very, very pretty. They kind of shimmer just a little bit, but I thought that was very nice for Floyd to send his wife a birthday card. Cute. Here again is the middle of the second signature. I put in another envelope. This time I left this open and I flipped the back and just kind of decorated it and put a little map of the Hofburg in Vienna. And these are just little pieces of different kinds of paper. This is a book that's in Russian, and then I've got some German up here. Stamp. This is a stencil. It is, the ink I used was this Distress Ink old paper. Old paper works really nice on tea-dyed paper. It's a very, very subtle color. Which is what I like. I don't like strong colors at all. I really like faded and dull coloring. So the effect I thought was very nice. I was very happy with this. This is the other half of the 6x6 cardstock. So here's this one, and then on this side I just took a little. There I had a little book of sayings by Ben Franklin, and I just kind of stuck it in here, glued them in. He's got some, very clever sayings, of course, that I appreciate, so I wanted to have those. This is just some pieces of paper pad. This is another old envelope from somebody in 1937, Whittier, California. I like the two stamps, they're very nice. Here is the last signature. So let me show you again what the signatures look like in here. There's these really deep gussets, which I really like. There's a lot of space in here, and you can see the spine, which is, I don't know, I like it. It's spacious. It's spacious and yet it's tight. There's a lot of volume here. So I think it's a good combination of the spacing and how the papers fit within the covers. So anyway, here is just another envelope, tea-dyed, with some paper and a piece of doily, some ribbon, cardstock, things like that. I need to glue that down a little bit better. Here's another pattern of the spine binding. Here I took a piece of text from one of my favorite novels, A Precious Bane by Mary Webb, and I printed it out, glued it on here, and then I have this stencil brass template that is really nice. I like it. I used again one of those distress inks. I didn't use the old paper, but I used, I don't know, tea dye or walnut stain or something. I think it was a tea dye. In here I have an envelope, glassine envelope, that I folded and centered it. And then I cut the top flap so that I'm able to open it that way. This is just a rubber stamp. Here, this is a doily that I gessoed and then used colored chalks, to decorate with a stencil. This is just another page from a book. This one has the seam. Yeah, it's there. You can see it. I'm not really thrilled that you can see it. I used embroidery thread as a thread for putting the signatures in. I tested the embroidery thread. I pulled it. I did all kinds of stress tests, and it holds up really well. And this is embroidery thread from my grandma's stash, and it's like 50 years old, so if that holds up, then I'm not going to really worry about that it's going to break or anything of that sort. So, yeah, so that's what it looks like in the middle. That's why those envelopes or, something else to cover that would be good. I've seen some people take this, seal it, double-sided tapes on the top and the bottom, and then you have a pocket in the middle. That's an idea too, but I like this house, so I kept the paper that way. Here's the other half of that doily, and this is just a pocket. I haven't decided what I'm going to stick in there yet, so I just left it open for now. Here's the other side of that glassine envelope, just with some old pictures of soldiers from Bavaria that I again found in Munich. There's a 6x6 paper pad and another nice postcard. Really, really pretty with a nice stamp of Emperor Franz Josef. Here's a square doily that I tea dyed, and on the back is again another old book that I glued on and then used the spray to coat it and keep it from flaking off. So far so good. The doily I sewed in. I think I sewed. Yeah, I sewed in, and then on the other side it's covered up with that. So that's that. So that's it. That's the book. I did not put a clasp on or a closure for the book. I wanted to be able to just slide it into a bookshelf without anything, and also I didn't want any embellishments or anything like that other than this. I really like to keep things simple and not too flowery or decorated too heavily. I thought this is just simple as best, so that you notice the colors and the design element just of what is here. So anyway, that's it. Check out, well, I have one more journal that I'm just finishing up, probably in very soon. I will post another video with what that one looks like. Thanks for watching. Bye.